It's Spoilerin time. This is the show that goes along with Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we figure out what to watch, where it is, and then after we watch it, we come here and talk about it. This week, we're going to talk about The Righteous Gemstones, Season 3, Episode 5, Secret Invasion, Season 1, Episode 3, and Miami Vice, Season 4, Episode 9, Rising Sun of Death. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Man, I really regret that I can't retroactively change one of my children's names to Rising Son of Death.
Would that be a middle name or?
Oh, no, just the complete name. I wouldn't even give him Brushwood. Name. I would just say, you are Rising Son of Death.
This is Janet Brushwood. This is Carl Brushwood. And this is Rising Son of Death.
Yes.
Brushwood? Nope.
He'll be the Brett Harley Jarvis of
Screw you, Brett Harley Jarvis. Oh my gosh. All right, let's start with The Righteous Gemstones, Season 3, Episode 5, Interlude 3. So this is now a thing. We're in Season 3. We get another interlude where we do a flashback episode. We've had like a flashback of John Goodman's character in the past. This was a flashback of the cousins and actually pretty well focused on Peter and his story, how he bought in to Dr. Eli Gemstone's Y2K buckets and was going to lose a lot of money. Eli agreed to just buy him back, but Eli's sister and Peter's wife would have nothing to do with it. So they shut down that idea, which is what seems to have driven Peter to rob a bank and get shot at the end of the episode.
Well, before we talk about the narrative aspects of this episode, can we take a moment just to sing the praises of John Goodman, the only human being who has to play the exact same character with completely different actors who are playing the same characters at different ages at different times. So like Amy Lee, he only sees Amy Lee in the de-aged episodes, the interludes or the flashbacks or what have you. You've got this extraordinary cast. Boy, oh boy, Kelvin, Jesse, and Judy. Those child actors are very, very good at.
Young Jesse is possessed.
Amazing.
Right. And that young Judy is great too. Young Kelvin doesn't get enough to work with to really like to be able to shine as brightly, but is really good as well. But man, there's something about young Jesse where I'm like, no, that is absolutely Jesse.
There's a Vulture article that I read earlier that I think Bryce is pulling up right now. It was a lot of fun to see young Amber and how the two of them began their courtship.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But just on technical merits, for the difficulty of being John Goodman playing a younger version of his own character with other actors playing younger versions, it's just chef's kiss. And one more quick note. I'm getting my daughters onboarded to Righteous Gemstones. And the moment they saw that the episode was titled Interlude, they cheered. And really? That alone is a technical merit where it's like they've trained everybody in the audience to understand that about midway through each of the seasons, there's going to be one episode entirely set in the past.
Yep.
I did not expect as many narrative gifts as we received in this. Everything from how the scar showed up on Peter's face to the preaching against the abundance gospel to the obvious, a good magic trick. It's in front of you the entire time. Of course, the gemstones would have prepper kits, and of course, the prepper guy would buy in at a stock level on it, and of course, the prepper guy would double down emotionally on his investment at a supernatural next level that would bring him all the way to the crazy cult status that he has now. Yeah. This is a great show, maybe the best show of all time. It's great.
I don't have a lot to add to that, to be honest. We had the subplot of young Amber and young Judy having the fight and the jealousy, and that is very clearly setting us up to have them have a fight in the future over
The
Amber
system.
giving the system to Judy's husband. So that felt like the only part of this plot line where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get the fulfillment on this in a future episode. But it was still fun. It was still well told. It just didn't feel as rich and thick as the other ones to me.
There's a number of moments, and keep in mind, so when you go to trivia night, if you play trivia night by yourself, then you are at a disadvantage when you have like 4 or 5 people in your group, because between all of you, you'll figure more things out. Watching this with the entire family was a joy, because I would have missed little things like when Jesse says, well, we could smash stuff up with the Redeemer. And then it was Penny who shouted out, oh my God, that's the Barbie mobile that that Walton Goggins gave her as a kid, and so on. And so many of these, the consistency of, you could tell that they're keeping notes on everything, and it really, really shows in an episode like this.
Is this the first episode, or one of the only times where we are talking about a crisis of faith, especially with Eli, with anyone in the church proper? Because we get it between him and Amy Lee just a little bit at the end there, but we've never really touched on that ever. And because I know I've thought that before. Like, why, we're not exactly doing the schemer fraudster storyline until now.
Well, and that's a really good point, Bryce, because I think if we go back and listen to early Spoilerin time episodes as we're watching it, I was convinced that this was a cynical story. And one of the things that made me fall in love with the story is that it's not cynical. I mean, it's awful. They're terrible people, but it's not cynical at all from the point of view of the family. And now that I believe it, I think you're right, Bryce. When it comes to all of the gemstones, there's never been a moment of cynicism. And Amy Lee, the absent heart of this family, saying, I don't know, I found myself selling a thing that I didn't really believe in. And that made, and of course the conversation is not about God or whatever. It's just about Y2K. That's a really sharp observation.
I think that explains my mixed feelings of Eli going down and talking to the people, because what you would usually get is honesty from this family. Like, they're awful people, but a great example of that is when one of the cousins tells Jesse, like, cursing is a sin. And Jesse's like, yeah, watch me pile up a bunch more of them. It's like, oh yeah, that's honesty. He's not a hypocrite who's trying to pretend he never sins. He knows he can be forgiven. They're not Catholics, but sure, why not? Or whatever. What I expected to see when Martin says, you just need to go talk to him, and when Amy Lee is saying, we didn't think it was going to happen in our hearts, was Eli confess, you know what? I did something I shouldn't have. I went with something. I fell into temptation, but instead he didn't admit anything. He just told them the reasons you're here was to be with us and to worship. And it's not our fault it didn't happen. Thank goodness it didn't. He doesn't actually lie, but it's the first time I've seen him not kind of dance around the truth, which is exactly what you would expect from this kind of setup, right?
He engaged in the behavior of managing a crisis. Right. And part of managing a crisis, it could be implied that he was not treating his congregation as entities deserving of full respect, but instead of things that had to be situated so that he could keep his operation going.
If I say these things, I won't get in trouble and they'll come back to me, versus let me just be frank with you. Right.
Which, and even then, they're not heavy-handed about any of that, which is
right.
Which just brings me back to it's a good show, and
Well, I agree. Like, this is a very subtle way of approaching this issue. They could have had him just bluster and be a fraud total fraud.
A baby Billy.
He never lied. He just was very careful in the way he told the truth.
Yeah, baby Billy represents complete cynicism.
Yeah.
But the gemstones, I agree with Bryce's thesis that this is the closest we've ever seen the core gemstones to come to cynicism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just even, a question of faith. I guess in this case, it's really exploited.
Well,
but there is a level of like, well, what does it mean if you don't believe that an apocalypse is going to come?
I don't know if it's a question of faith because we experience it after the fact, right? Everything takes place after Y2K didn't happen. And by the way, oh man, what a crazy, wonderful time Y2K was. Oh, if you didn't have money at the time, you missed out. That was a fun time to engage in a little bit of a prepper fantasy role play. It was amazing.
And was it helped or hindered by the acts of religiously motivated enterprises?
Oh, and that's the other thing is clearly this thread is inspired by Jim Baker, and I assume at that time, I don't know if he was still with Tammy Faye or whatever, but like Jim Baker has sold a lot of magical doodads on late night television, and that's what they're riffing on. And it's like, okay, if somebody believes they're spreading the gospel and wants to do so in an over-the-top showboaty manner, then why wouldn't they be part of the Y2K thing? And to make that a core component and to use that as a way to explain the hostility between them and the, it's not Mackenzie's, whatever the other family name is. It was great. It was great.
Montgomery's,
yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the Righteous Gemstones?
I think we should stop watching it.
That's a surprising twist, folks. Brian calls for us to halt. We put it to a vote. Bryce, should we stop watching it?
No, we should continue watching it, Tom.
I agree. No, you're outvoted, Brian. We're going to continue to watch the Righteous Gemstones next week.
Get dunked
with
on!
episode 6. That's the Righteous Gemstones, season 3, episode 5. Let's talk about Secret Invasion, season 1, episode 3, Betrayed. This is this is the thriller episode. This is the one where they're gonna blow up the world, and we got to get to them and stop them before they blow up the world. And at the end, we find out that they never really thought they were gonna blow up the world. They wanted everyone to think they were gonna blow up the world, so they wasted time pursuing them and stopping them from blowing up the world.
Tom, I would like to begin by steel manning this franchise in this episode.
Okay.
The 2 key nuclear missile vignette is a fine vignette. I mean, I've enjoyed it ever since I first saw it when I watched War Games when I was in 2nd grade. I also like the fact that there have been times that people have failed to escalate information up the chain of command because they realize that it's very unlikely that one superpower would, send just one nuke or whatever. I mean, I like that. I even liked that when we get to the end and there's an opening of a security deposit box, I thought that was a fine little topspin on it, that there are 2 keys that are placed in there as if in reference to it. Having said all of that, I found this episode very slow and boring, and I suspect that maybe something will pay off. But Tom, can you look directly in your camera and pretend it's my eyes and say with a straight face whether or not this was an episode that was padded by at least 12 minutes of straight up garbage just so it would be the correct length of an episode?
No, I can't. I can't do that because I keep forgetting what this episode was about.
Okay, the broad strokes were.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably should do that. But the reason I said that was not, Brian, please remind me, so much as I like went back and read a summary about it this weekend to make sure that I remembered what it was about. And I still had to pull up a summary just now to remind me what it was about. I actually didn't mind this. I paid a little closer attention than I have the first two episodes while I was watching it. And I know that Emilia Clarke's character gets shot and probably isn't dead because Skrull, but it was an interesting twist at the end. However, I should remember more. I should be more invested and be able to say, oh, right, this was an important thing that happened. I do feel like this is a very simple story. And because of that, I'm sort of letting things just fall through the cracks in my mind.
Well, and it can be a simple story, just as William Shakespeare once said, "Don't waste my time," or "Brevity is the soul of wit." This is not a 40-plus minute episode of television. This is a very good 27 minutes. You did the things that you needed to do. You needed to say the words Super Skrull out loud so that we know this guy is going to become the individual character Super Skrull. You needed to set up Cold War vignettes so that you could remind everybody of how scary it was to be in the Cold War, because that's what the whole Skrull invasion was about in the comic books. Look, those are the things you needed to do. But by God, did they take a long time to do all of them. And by God, was it boring.
I wonder if they're doing a Netflix with this series. I don't know if it's an experiment, if it's on purpose, if it's unintentional. But Netflix often gets exactly the criticism you made. And the Netflix attitude has been, sure, because you're paying attention. Most people watching these shows on Netflix are not. So we make them so that you don't have to pay attention all the time and feel left out. You can have them on in the background. And I wonder if they're doing that with Secret Invasion to say, yeah, we'll make it the kind of thing that you can watch in the background.
Tom, I was watching it in the background.
Yeah,
I still hit that 10-second skip button.
Well,
I don't think I missed anything.
That's you, but you're not supposed to do it that way when you're watching in the background. You were paying too much attention.
Actually, you know what? You're 100% right.
You're watching it wrong.
I'm just saying. I don't think I missed very much of anything. As I said, like, oh, you're gonna do the thing where you're gonna okay.
I did like the scene where Gravik was in the museum gift shop cafe and all the people there were Skrulls and they all turned into him. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was good. That
like
made
that.
me pause and rewatch it so that I could watch that scene instead of leaving it on in the background.
Yeah.
I did. I was frustrated. Counterexample. It's like, hey, Bryce, if you and I were going to have an argument about Earth geopolitics, but you and I both happen to be undercover on Mars, would we use a whole bunch of Martian metaphors, or might we use Earth metaphors to have our discussion?
Well, presumably they were on Earth for a long time. But I probably would have used. Maybe they didn't have metaphors. Maybe they never needed metaphors because they could just always shape.
By all means, let's talk about the deep, rich oil paintings of the people who are in charge of the soldiers who die with muskets.
Yeah.
That's
Skrulls.
man. 5 episodes, 6 episodes. How many episodes are in this?
Oh, we've only watched 3. I thought you were asking how many this was.
No,
Yeah.
there's 6. We're halfway there. We're halfway there.
Oh,
It's gonna start picking up
scrolling
now.
on a prayer.
That's not me.
I will say I still like this story. I don't necessarily love the way it's being told, but I'm still interested in the story. I just I felt like this last episode particularly was a lot of A, B, and C that, I just should have taken as long as it took me to say A, B, and C probably.
And again, it's like there needs to be an A, B, a C, but boy, I don't think they needed to take this long to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be A.
Keep going. real quick. You pause. Bryce,
Yeah.
someday you and I are going to be on a podcast and somebody's going to say the word A. Cut back to Tom.
B.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, I rushed.
I was about to say, you're still mid-A.
Wait, no, this is a chance to go to flashback.
B. Yeah, no, B. A.
What? The A guy's saying B now.
All right, we all agree. We all agree the pacing is too slow.
Yep.
Is that not his wife?
I don't.
What are they doing with the wife? I don't understand that. Maybe I'm out of the loop on the MCU.
I did like the fact that, you know what, that is his wife, I believe, or partner. But
Is she a Skrull?
To be honest, I'm less interested in that and more interested in what it's like for a military wife to deal with a deployment and to mourn the loss of somebody who she thought was killed in action during the blip.
That was interesting too.
And to have her come back. Like that's some real life stuff
that was a good,
that I
was
thought
a
was
great
pretty
scene.
good.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, that's Secret Invasion, Season 1, Episode 3. Let's talk Miami Vice, Season 4, Episode 9, Rising Son of Death. Eileen came into the room while I was watching this and saw Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa and said, "Are you watching Mortal Kombat?"
No.
Was he Shang Tsung? Is that?
It was the fight scene. Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's like, wait, that's not Mortal Kombat. Also, Sheena Easton in this, and we aren't going to keep watching episodes just because Sheena Easton is in them, but she is a recurring character for the remainder of this season, basically.
Yes. Also, we
Crockett's wife.
Yet again have managed to be surprised by the real surprise guest stars, including James Hong. And I swear, I know it was on this program, but I know I've said out loud, I guess James Hong has just always played an old Asian man in my life, but I don't remember the other show that I was talking about. I went on a deep dive trying to figure out if it was on Miami Vice or not.
Not Everything Everywhere All at Once?
But
could be.
Could be.
That's him.
You know what? It could be literally anything I've ever seen James Hong in. Big Trouble in Little China. Keep on going. But also, so James Hong was the big star for me. That and also R. Lee Ermey, which made me want to find out whether or not, unfortunately, ChatGPT was not being cooperative at the time. But I was like, was this before or after Full Metal Jacket? Like what was? Do you know who that guy is? Have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket?
I know who Arlie Ermey.
Okay,
is. I'm stupefied that
you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
You could have just Googled it.
God, whatever, old man. Yeah, I ain't made a time. I need a robot to just give me an answer.
They were the same year.
They were. Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
So that means he probably. Because the story I'd always heard was that he was a consultant on Full Metal Jacket, and he was just so good that Stanley Kubrick was like, just have this guy do it.
Wow.
And then he did. And then this would be the kind of guest starring role that you would do in a shorter production time schedule in your career. About half of this episode is pretty good. And then it becomes the episode we already saw before where Captain Adama is a samurai.
That was amazing I thought it was interesting that the last like 12 to 15 minutes, barring the very last scene, is just Lieutenant Castillo against the detective, what was his name, Fujitsu, and Tanaka. That's it. Crockett, Tubbs, Gina, Trudy. No, forget all of them. We don't need any of them. We're just going to make this a Castillo triangle segment. And I kind of liked that as badly as it was done. I kind of liked the idea that it was like, oh, finally we're getting to see Castillo lead the charge here.
I
And by that I mean the Edward James Olmos, not Bryce.
Not me.
It made me almost want to go and find out whether or not he directed this episode too, and whether or not he just has a fetish for being a
But
samurai.
not enough to make you actually tell that it was Leonie Chaucer.
No,
that directed.
ChatGPT was not being cooperative today.
Leonie Chaucer
Okay.
directed this one.
Boy, man, Admiral Adama really loves to be a samurai. Is all I'm saying.
I'll say that this, for being a goofy, kind of out there episode, another one where they just rip off the limiter.
Yeah.
It is very stylish. Like, it is really stylized in a vibrant way where a lot of the fashionable bits of Miami Vice have been understated, I feel like. This one is a lot of color, a lot of dramatic lighting.
Crazy tattoos.
Yeah.
Also, I
Also, they were close, but that's not, would they say Sumiroshi Gumi? That was not it.
I wonder how much this particular episode is responsible for, like, if you ask me 10 years ago, what do you know about the Yakuza? I'm like, pinky's chopped off. That's all I would say.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I wonder
Was it
how
this
much of it
episode
was from this particular episode, or
because there was a lot of stereotypes in this one. I'm like, oh yeah, this is not trying to be accurate. This is trying to be all the stereotypes.
but also it's like, how would you find out those stereotypes?
You know,
Like
but,
this could be the cause of them.
Yeah. This is all the things you would commonly hear about, whether they're accurate or not.
Yeah.
Were in this episode. I thought the Fujitsu plot device was actually fairly complex. I liked that. I liked that he was someone who was for hire and had worked his way into being for hire for the people he had a vendetta against. I thought that was an interesting plot device.
Yeah, how do I put it? Sheena Easton, is she a bad actor?
Well, she's a singer, Brian.
I know, but is she bad at acting as well?
I don't know.
Did you know she gave us a new accent this time? She gave us a different accent. She was back she's back on her American accent stuff.
That's what they called her, the actor of a million accents.
I can give you Sheena Easton. I can give you Sheena Weston. If you give me 24 hours, I give you Sheena South.
Sheena Northton?
Yeah. Sheena, Oklahoma. What do you want?
We did get Trudy and Gina playing call girls, but like
That happens a lot,
going like
doesn't it?
deep
Isn't that-
undercover. They went deep undercover.
Like not even wearing a wire.
I feel like
Whoa.
at first, when we were watching season 1 episodes and Gina and Trudy were, I was like, oh, this is risque for primetime television. By season 4, I'm like, really? You can't think of anything else for Gina and Trudy to do than to be
I mean, they
undercover.
have, to their credit. For example, I think it was it Gina that was abducted by aliens. That's pretty far off the map.
Or did she?
Or
By
was she an
James
undercover
Brown?
call girl for aliens.
I feel like you can fault them for a lot of things, but you can't fault them for not coming up with other things for them to do.
I'm just saying, they go undercover as call girls a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe you could make a show called Miami
Nice.
Everyman's.
Okay, so I can't have that criticism without having to make Miami Vice. You know, when you're successful enough to make a Miami Vice, Tom, then maybe you can have Gina and Trudy do other things.
Also, I'm really astonished. I was struck during the opening when the theme came on, and I was like, ugh. Like, do you remember how much we loved the opening credit sequence
that's so
at the
funny.
beginning?
I skipped the theme for the first time. Up until now, I've been like, oh, you know, it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. I love seeing the scenes of this is the first time I skipped it. And I swear there was something new. There were like race cars. And I'm like, wait, were the race cars always there?
Oh,
I would know. I skipped it.
I know. I saw that right when I skipped it. I was like,
Yes.
I don't remember there being cars at the very beginning of.
Yeah.
I not only skipped it, I thought to myself, how much do you think Jan Hammer got paid? And how much did he trade away just so his name would be in the credits every single time so that I would know his name this many years later?
Okay, so real talk to the Spoilerin Time crew. After Talk people kind of know this is under discussion. We are going to continue watching specially selected guest episodes of Miami Vice. probably through October. We've got enough of these. There's some great ones coming. Michael Chiklis, more Ian McShane, a Barbara Streisand appearance, CCH Pounder. But when we're done with this one, we had so much fun doing the Miami Vice rewatch. We think this is probably one of the most fun things we do on Spoilerin Time. What should we watch next? What would be a worthy successor to Miami Vice? Give us an email, cordkillers@gmail.com. That is our discussion of Miami Vice 409, Rising Sun of Death.
Of death.
Death. Next week, Harry Shearer in The Cows of October. Miami Vice, episode 4. Episode 12 of season 4. Of course, Righteous Gemstones, season 3, episode 6, and Secret Invasion, season 1, episode 4. Until then, spoil yourselves. You deserve it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.